Please welcome to the stage Michael Dell, founder, CEO of Dell Technologies, and chairman of the board of VMware. Michael Dell. Michael, it is great to have you here. And as we said, we cut it off at about midnight last night. We got a bunch of questions coming in, and people are anxious for us to answer a few things for them.
Awesome, let's do it.
Yeah. So looking at these, we received a number of questions about VMware support. I guess I should take that one, maybe.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Probably so,
Good
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
I was afraid you'd say that. And, some of those about support quality, response time, those type of issues. And, the first thing, I just want to say to everybody is, thank you for your feedback. And any time our support or our products do not meet your expectations, we want to know about it. So please give us that feedback. Give us that feedback at myvmware.com. We got a spot for that. Please call us. Give your rep that feedback. We really want to know that that's the case, because anything that doesn't meet your expectation isn't living up to our brand reputation. So please give the feedback. Now, some of the questions sort of centered around length of time and support calls, the quality of people being able to respond to things directly. And I'll say I'm disappointed to hear that some of you have concerns in that area, because our support has generally gotten great NPS scores. We monitor that regularly. We monitor queue times, hold times, length of time to respond. So anytime those deviate, we look at them carefully. And this to me is an area that, it's easy to get focused on profitability and so on, but customer quality of support is what we're focused on there. And Scott Batos, who leads that area for us, he is the most customer-oriented human on the planet. We're going to monitor it. Thank you for that feedback. Based on that question, we're going to have some follow-up sessions that dig into that a little bit more closely, to not just look at the means and the averages, but also to look at the tail and the standard deviation in that area. Yesterday we did announce some new support capabilities. One of those in particular, the Skyline, pushing out proactive support, that we can be predictive and proactive with customers to avoid ever needing a support call, and being able to us call you as opposed to you calling us as well. So, and I encourage you to go look at Skyline. We have a demo booth on the showcase floor, and that and other things. But thank you for that area of feedback. We are committed to be, simply put, your best technology partner. The second one, sort of centered on, questions about AI, future topics, quantum computing, machine learning. And I think both of us should probably touch on this one a little bit, Michael.
Sure.
But maybe you can start and your thoughts in that area as well.
Great. Well, look, I think we're in perhaps one of the most exciting times ever in human history and human development. And if you think about what's going on right now with the explosion in the number of smart connected devices and intelligent nodes, and the cost of making something intelligent approaching zero, and as we travel around the world and talk to our customers, the digital transformation is game on. And when you overlay on top of that the enormous amount of data that's being created, and the amount of data that's being created is doubling faster and faster out there in the world. And then on top of that, you overlay this really interesting and exciting computer science, the artificial intelligence, the machine intelligence. You get a tremendous age of human machine working together in a tremendous set of possibilities for the future. I think we're just at the beginning of this. One of the things we think a lot about across Dell Technologies is the data, because the fuel for these engines of AI and machine intelligence, and certainly we have lots of compute power and storage and protecting and managing these environments, but the data is incredibly important Because you can have the best algorithms in the world, but without any data to feed it, your AI is not going to be very good, right? And so, we think a lot about that. We're seeing these use cases really take off. And look, I think right now we're talking about data. A little later on in today's presentation, we'll be talking about applications and developers. But across the Dell Technologies family, the digital transformation, is game on. I think there's another interesting element of this, which is it's really much broader than IT, right? It is a CEO agenda topic, right? It is how do you evolve your company? What's the strategy of your company? And if you're not thinking about how you're going to use all this data to, in the moment, make your product and service better, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, and I'll say, one of the things I sort of like this story that when I was architecting the 486, literally 1985, I'm architecting the 486, and one of the things we looked at was how to make the 486 a great AI machine, right? I was at 1985, can you believe it, right? At the time, and the core of AI has been maturing for 30 years, and what's changed is massive compute and massive data, and yeah, we've made some algorithmic progress with deep machine learning, but the core was never really possible to be unleashed before the compute and data got at the scale that we are now. And clearly, in some examples like the app defense announcement yesterday, to me, one agenda is everybody in the tech industry needs to be integrating machine learning and AI into their products. Their products need to get better, more predictive, more insightful as a result of machine learning and AI, and that's a good example. But also our job is then to say, how can we take this platform that we're building and enable many people to build new applications and services on top of it, including machine learning, AI, big data applications as well. And that to us is exciting. And some of the edge work that we discussed yesterday, this is where tech is breaking out of the nest and we're reaching into areas never possible before and being able to put intelligence further and further into everyday human life.
There's a coming boom in edge computing. And when you, again, think about the data, there's going to be a lot of data out there on the edge. And as you get the 5th generation cellular network and all these nodes are talking to each other, you'll have a different kind of cloud that will emerge and all sorts of new requirements in terms of how you manage and deal with that data. So we're thinking about a lot of those issues now, and across the family here, we've got a great set of capabilities.
Yeah, we've been at it for 3+ decades now, Michael. We got another couple of decades of exciting stuff in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we'll look back 30 years from now, and the first 30 years was actually not that exciting compared to what's ahead of us.
Yeah, in fact, I like saying today is the slowest day of technological evolution of the rest of your lives.
For sure.
The next question was sort of in this area of the SMB. We had lots of, that 200 logos that Sanjay, that was just impressive.
Right.
But maybe the question was sort of, don't forget us, don't forget about us, the smaller company as well. And, maybe Michael, you might start on that topic because, that's been so central to your business forever.
Well, what I would say is that, if you look at the, economy, right, and you look at, where jobs are created, most of the jobs are actually created by small and medium businesses and emerging companies. And that's actually where most people work, right? And so I'm proud to say, since we completed the combination with VMware and EMC and Pivotal and the rest of the Dell Technologies family, we've added tens of thousands of new customers into the family here, and a lot of those are new VMware customers that are in that small and medium business space. And together we've been reimagining our products to say, how do we serve not only the big giant companies that you saw, the logos and the biggest governments in the world? We are honored to serve those customers for sure. But also, how do you serve all these other small and medium sized businesses and emerging companies? And we've got a lot of great things going on in product development. New products. vSAN is very relevant for those customers. VxRail doing extremely well in the SMB market, and many, many more things that we're working on together.
Yeah, and I'll just say, we've had such success, 500,000 customers, and maybe 20,000 are big. But that means 480 or 90,000 are small, and I love the question because we can never lose focus on that, and that's one thing clearly. Dell is keeping us very accountable, and how do we make sure we're building good products together to satisfy them? And some examples like vSAN are great, very good in that portion of the market. But some of our other products and some of our focus has become maybe a little bit too much high end. And I really commit to all of you that are sort of SMB. We will continue to make sure we do a great job engineering and innovating for you as well. Maybe the next one is sort of in the ecosystem area. And, questions around, hey, co-opetition, ecosystem, HCI, public cloud, the breadth of partners here. Are we really committed to continue to have this diverse ecosystem, Michael?
We said this back in October of 2015 when we announced the plan to combine. We said it again, when the combination was complete a year ago, and we'll say it again here. And I am incredibly pleased to see the open, independent ecosystem of VMware thrive and be very vibrant. You see it out there on the show floor. You see it in the continuing adoption of VMware technologies by open ecosystem partners. Look, this is a key part of VMware's success. And so we're fully committed to that. It's as strong as it's ever been. And I think it only gets stronger. And all the great work that the VMware team is doing in extending the VMware technology reach with cross-cloud architecture, the amazing things that are going on with NSX, which I continue to be very, very excited about. The announcements yesterday, announcements we'll have later on today. The open ecosystem of VMware continues to grow and be very, very vibrant.
Yeah, and we have 400 plus companies here, and every time I've talked to you about one of those partnerships, Michael, you've been very consistent. If it's good for VMware, it's good for Dell Technologies.
Absolutely.
And that simple line, right? Any of the partnership announcements. I mean, some of them that we announced yesterday, good for Dell. Some of them, hey, they're a co-opetition. And you've been absolutely consistent in that respect. And also, you have some partners. Hey, I may not be as excited about some of those relationships as well. And
I understand. It'll be fine, Pat. Don't worry about it. Everything's gonna work out.
Okay.
Relax. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Moving right along. We also
therapy.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dell. One last topic to touch on before we move on. Synergy. We talked about some of the partnership, creating value together as well. And, this is just a great topic. Dell EMC, how you're coming together, but also VMware and how we're innovating together. A few thoughts in that area?
Yeah, what I've seen is the more we do together, the better it gets. And I think Dell EMC and VMware, go together like peanut butter and chocolate, right? And we've got a great thing going here. We talked a lot about revenue synergies, and that was driven by not only cross-selling, but also a deep level of technical integration, innovation in creating new products and solutions. And we're seeing that in all the things that we're rolling out. Every time there's a new Dell EMC announcement or a VMware announcement, you can see the deep integration while we retain this open ecosystem of other partners. So, when we talked about the revenue synergies a year or so ago, we're absolutely ahead of plan there, right? That's going faster and better than we planned for, maybe than any of us thought. But great news there, and absolutely delighted with how everything has come together here.
Yeah, and it's great to see the synergies, and the teams as they start to work together, have some success in the marketplace, and products like VxRail, knocking it out of the park. Some of the integrations with the clients.
400% growth. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good, right? Even in Texas, that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Good. But we're not done there with the synergies, are we, Michael?
No, we're not. There's more to happen here, and one of the things that we've been seeing in the innovation space is a lot of innovation in our customers around next generation applications and particularly containers, and using that as a way of accelerating the pace of change and progress inside their businesses.
I talked about it in that keynote, and I'll add a few thoughts, but maybe start with your thoughts on the whole security space and some of the things we talked about this week.
I think what VMware is doing in app defense is fantastic, because look, the thing I've heard consistently from customers is that the landscape is too complicated. It's this patchwork of continuing to apply additional coats of armor and additional locks in the system, and thinking about this in a more fundamental way, as you've done with app defense, I think is fantastic. Certainly within Dell Technologies, with SecureWorks and RSA, we have great capabilities in governance and in threat intelligence and being able to augment the capabilities that customers have. But look, all businesses at the end of the day are about trust and assurance. And so we have to think deeply, as the essential infrastructure company, about how we secure that infrastructure so that companies' most valuable assets and data are protected.
Yeah, and I'll just say, this idea of integrating security into the infrastructure, clearly we, VMware, are stepping up to do more of that across our products, like in storage, and, network, microsegmentation, encryption, and so on. But also across the Dell family, we're looking for how we have those opportunities to just integrate more and really just simplify that environment. And when we show up together, clearly this is one of the things that I think collectively we can do a better job saying, here it is, we've done all of this already. Now, and here are the options for things that we've already pre-integrated, validated on top of it. So I think we have the opportunity to restructure the industry.
And we've had a long history there with secure BIOSes and isolated recovery solutions, and really thinking about data in motion, data at rest, and how do we create the most secure infrastructure in the world.
Yeah. Hey, the next question was around Workspace One, and this one is maybe a little bit more to me, but it says, Workspace One pricing. The question seems to stem from the fact that Workspace One is a great offering, but not affordable to SMB or to SLED customers. And we covered a bit of the SMB topic earlier, but I wanted to get back to this in the Workspace One's discussion more specifically. And anything that we do that isn't consumable by all of our customers, we got to work on that. And Workspace One, obviously it's a fairly new offering. We've had extraordinary growth. We've been engaging with some of our largest EUC customers, and they're really, this whole idea of being able to put those pieces together like I showed in the keynote is very powerful. We do have some things like the AirWatch Express for endpoint management, a lower end offering. But I take your comments seriously, and clearly some of our more enterprise-oriented value propositions that we've brought to the marketplace, if they're not consumable yet by SMB, give us that feedback. We're going to look carefully at feature, function, pricing, how we sort of create that right ability to consume it. Dell's helped us in a number of areas in this case where, hey, if your guys can't sell it, okay, it's much too complicated as well. So I'll just say thank you for the feedback, and we're going to look at this one more closely as a result of that. Next one, Michael, quantum computing. What do you think? Now we're getting out here a little bit.
Well, Pat, you've designed a few microprocessors in your time, so this was probably more in your wheelhouse. So I'll let you take that one.
Well, thank you. And, a few general thoughts. And one is just, there's been lots of things that have been talked about different computing models over time. There's been biological computing, we've used spin state to be able to, the spin of electrons as well, and different material types over time. And silicon has just been fabulous because it's been the scalable, very manufacturable, repeatable, high-quality material structure. And in fact, at this point, while it's been almost 8 years since I've been a semiconductor guy, hard to believe, Michael, 8 years. But I think we've used almost half of the periodic table in silicon, and that's part of the magic of it. So it's been a very durable material over a long period of time. Now, as people look to new types like biological or quantum computing, quantum has some very unique aspects that get people quite excited, particularly in the area of security and security algorithms. And as they start to get to higher qubit computing embodiments, as we start maybe approaching about 50 qubits, people start to say, wow, now that becomes really, really interesting to start to solve real problems as just little lab experiments as well. So I do think that quantum computing, maybe in the next 5 years or so, we're finally going to get to the scale of qubits that it does solve real problems that interest people as well. Now, one of the things that I think is very interesting about cloud computing and these very large-scale environments that we're seeing people put in place somewhat specialized architectures, FPGA architectures, being able to have graphic acceleration or GPU environments. So you don't need to have it become general purpose, and I don't think anything on the horizon. Nothing is going to replace silicon as that general purpose, used everywhere. But you could say, oh, over here in the corner, I do have a qubit computer or quantum computing environment that I'm using for a few specialized algorithms. So maybe sometime, within the next decade, we're going to start seeing cloud computing that will include, quantum computing as one of the models that's being available, and it's sitting right next to the FPGA computer and the GPU, and we have this general purpose computing farm. And when we do so, I think there's going to be a class of problems that start to become tractable that aren't tractable today.
And we do know of some specialized use cases today in cryptography.
Yeah, absolutely.
With quantum. There are certainly some examples in security where that technology is being deployed today.
Yeah, and I think that's, that is probably the area that gets people most excited as well, and also how it might break some of today's encryption algorithms, now very effectively with a quantum computer. So it may, force us in a general purpose way to think more seriously about new encryption algorithms as well.
That's right.
So, next one, maybe a bit more on the Dell EMC collaboration, and obviously following this morning's keynote, the PKS announcement in particular. And maybe you can start on this one, Michael, and some of your thoughts there that we covered this morning, but also maybe go a little bit further.
Yeah, so look, I think, the more we have done together, the better it is. And it's wonderful to see the announcement today around the Pivotal Container Service and being able to link the incredible base that Google has created with Kubernetes, along with the Bosch underlay that Pivotal has created with the NSX platform that I've talked a lot about and love that part of the VMware story. Bringing that all together. What also intrigues me is this idea that we have millions of Spring developers out there. Mm-hmm. And how do we create a container platform that makes it easy for these next generation applications to fit within the VMware environment that is so familiar? And so, I'm truly excited about what we're doing. It's great to see the collaboration across the Dell Technologies family, and I think this is the first step in many steps in further collaboration. And I would add that, as Dell EMC, we're going to stand up the right infrastructure to be able to support these PKS workloads on premise, back them up in the public cloud with our data protection offerings, and fully support this from an infrastructure standpoint.
Yeah, no, it is good, and obviously PKS on VX Rack, it's a pretty straightforward, hey, this, it's, put top on bottom and boom, you have a developer-ready infrastructure in a box. It really is pretty exciting. And clearly, as we've heard from customers as they're looking for container development, 3 or 4 years ago, what was Kubernetes? Right, some funny word that started with a K, and clearly this continuing evolution of the developer space. And there's just lots and lots of creativity going on in that space. And today's announcement with PKS, is really a good step forward. But as you say, it's a long journey. And I don't know in my career that there's ever been a more exciting period, right, of developer innovation that's going on that really, is creating an acceleration of software as a core competence of companies. And that really is where Pivotal has sort of really made its mark in the industry and making repeatable software skills for enterprise companies.
That's right. And what I've seen inside these companies when you go and visit them, which I like to do, I actually love that part of my job, is you see them figuring out that after they've done the obvious things in improving their IT estate, they have this core competitive differentiation that they want to express in software. And they need to do that much, much faster. And they need the agile methodology, they need the tools and technology of a fast-moving startup. And they've got some great assets. They've got tons of data to be able to inform their products and services. So I think this is going to be quite liberating for lots of our customers that are struggling with how do they jump into this digital transformation.
Yeah, this is good. Now, you touched a little bit on NSX there, but there were several questions around NSX and multi-data center and cross-cloud and, how this enterprise network is going to work in the future. And maybe I'll ask you to start on that. I have some big thoughts there as well to add, but go ahead, Michael.
Great. Well, the more we learn about the future scenarios for distributed computing and the multi-cloud world, I think the more opportunities we see for NSX. And certainly what I see, if just on a pattern recognition basis, is this looks very much like the origins of server virtualization. When I think about the network and virtualizing layers 4 through 7 and the early adoption that we're starting to see with a number of the telcos around the world. So it's a tremendous opportunity to inject flexibility and agility into what has been not a particularly flexible part of the IT landscape. And I think that will be very important in enabling all these future use cases, particularly with 5G and all the distributed edge computing that we think is just around the corner.
Yeah, and clearly, with NSX and as I described, being able to go from data centers to centers of data, and how do you connect all of those together? And with virtual networking, how we really, as I would say, they're really, since basic switching and routing, there wasn't an architectural change of significance in networking for almost 3 decades. Now one is upon us, and this idea we've gone from the data center. We've stretched those overlay networks and microsegmentations to the devices that connects to it. We've now reached into the next generation container environments and allow them to directly have control of the microsegments and the security domains, making it a multi-cloud layer between data centers and now across any cloud, right, with our VMware cloud service offering with NSX. But maybe even most exciting aspect when we start looking at its role in core networking with 5G, and then as we go look at it to edge and IoT, all of those need secure network embodiments as well. So the role that this plays in our future, to me, it really is the core of what we're doing, and we're seeing it integrated into every one of our product offerings, including some component of NSX. So I just couldn't be more excited about it.
And what we can do with NSX to help address the security challenges, I think is quite profound.
Oh, yeah. And this idea, as I would describe it, when you go to a bank and imagine you get past the front lobby, you've got nothing, right? I mean, the good stuff is many, many layers of protection below. And that's how we have to be building our networks. You get past that edge, right, first edge firewall, nothing visible. Right, you got many layers to go, and that's how we have to build our networks. That's how we have to, think about every aspect of the resilience of the architecture that we build. So this is very foundational to our thinking and how we're architecting all of our products into the future.
Agree.
Well, Michael, I think this covers the top ones, the top questions. Really glad that we had the opportunity to our VMworld audience to field a few more of your questions. And it's really important to us that we hear from you, get your feedback, respond to your questions and dialogues. And that's been sort of the fun part of this with Michael. And clearly, the matters that are most important to you are most important to us and to the future of IT. Great to spend this time with you. Thank you very much.